The snowstorm rolled across the high desert like a living thing, swallowing the moonlight and rattling the shutters of the old frontier cabin where Marshall Colton Reeves knelt beside the dying embers of his Christmas Eve fire, his heart heavy with the weight of a year filled with loss, duty, and the silent ache only a widowed father knows. And in that cold, echoing stillness, where the wind's howl felt like the voice of memories he could never outrun, the door suddenly burst open as little Annie Reeves stumbled in, cheeks red from the cold, eyes shining with a strange and hopeful excitement, boots crunching with snow as she shouted, "Daddy, I brought you a Christmas present," before pointing her tiny gloved finger toward the swirling white darkness outside. And Colton's pulse kicked hard, because Christmas gifts were not something that came easily on the frontier, and Annie's voice carried an urgency that made him rise to his feet at once, grab his lantern, and step out into the frozen night where, standing near the old corral fence, cloaked in snow like a ghost of the desert plains, was a lone figure, an Apache woman, tall, dignified, wrapped in a tattered doeskin shawl, her dark eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion, fear, and something deeper, something ancient. Colton's breath hitched as he realized that Annie, in her pure and trusting heart, had misunderstood the woman's presence, believing kindness to be something exchanged like gifts, believing that if her daddy's heart was hurting from loneliness, then maybe bringing someone else who was alone would somehow fix it. For Annie had found the Apache widow collapsed near the frozen creek while searching for a pine cone she wanted to decorate for him. And instead of fearing her as townsfolk usually feared anyone Apache, she carried her by the hand through the storm with the faith of a child who sees souls, not sides, and believes every stranger has a place at a Christmas fire. Colton carefully approached the woman, lantern trembling in his hand, and in that wavering golden light he saw the grief carved into her expression, the pain of someone who had lost everything, her husband, her family, her tribe scattered by winter sickness and tragedy, and she bowed, her head slightly, not in fear but in fatigued respect, whispering her name in a soft, melodic Apache accent. "Naira," she said, and Colton felt a wave of empathy crash into him, because he, too, understood the wordless language of widows and widowers, the hollow nights, the memory-laden silences, the ache of missing someone who would never return. He guided her into the cabin, wrapped her in a warm quilt, and listened as she explained that she had traveled for days to warn the nearby settlements of a dangerous band of outlaws planning to raid ranches during the Christmas storm, outlaws who had driven her from her village after setting fire to everything she loved, and she refused to let others suffer the same fate, even if it meant risking her life, crossing hostile terrain in deadly weather. As she spoke, Colton felt admiration build inside him because despite her loss, she chose courage over bitterness, and Annie, watching the two adults with the wise innocence only frontier children possessed, slipped her little hand into Naira's, saying, "Daddy, she was alone, like us." And the way she said "us" cracked Colton inside because she was right. He had built walls around his heart since losing Annie's mother, becoming a man of duty, not hope, a protector of everyone but himself. And for the first time in years he saw those walls softening in the presence of this brave woman who carried her pain with such dignity. But the moment of warmth shattered when a distant gunshot echoed across the plains, followed by the cold metallic clatter of horses approaching, and Naira's eyes widened. "They found me," she whispered, and instantly Colton sprang into action, securing the cabin, dousing the lantern, grabbing his rifle, positioning himself between his daughter and the danger brewing outside, while Annie clung to Naira, trembling not from fear but from the instinctive loyalty she felt toward the woman she had brought home like a Christmas miracle. Shadows moved through the storm, voices barked orders, and the outlaws began circling the cabin, believing Naira to be alone and helpless, but they didn't know she had found shelter with a frontier marshal whose courage matched hers. And as bullets cracked into the wooden walls and the cabin shook with violence, Colton realized that the little Christmas gift Annie had brought him was not a person, but a purpose, a reminder that his heart was still alive, that his home could still protect, that Christmas was not about receiving but giving, and he would give everything to protect the innocent souls inside. Naira joined him at the window, her calm bravery showing as she took up Annie's late mother's old bow that hung over the fireplace, stringing it with practiced hands, her movements smooth like someone who had once been a warrior's wife, trained to survive the desert's hardships. Together, Colton and Naira defended the cabin with fierce determination, and when the sheriff's posse finally arrived, alerted by the earlier gunshot, the Daz outlaws fled into the storm, leaving behind silence, safety, and the realization that some battles bring people together in ways destiny could never explain. Dawn rose slowly, dusting the snow with gold, and inside the cabin, Annie sat between Colton and Naira, her little head resting on each of their arms, as if she somehow knew that Christmas miracles are not always wrapped in ribbons. They sometimes arrive in the form of someone who reminds you that healing is possible, that hearts can mend, that family can grow in unexpected ways. Colton looked at Naira, and she looked back with a soft, grateful strength. And in that warm silence, something gentle bloomed between them, a feeling unspoken but understood, born not from romance but from shared survival, shared courage, shared loss, shared hope. And Annie, lifting her sleepy eyes, whispered, "Daddy, did you like your present?" And Colton pulled her close with a smile heavy with emotion, saying, "Darling, it's the best Christmas present I've ever been given." And as the fire crackled, filling the room with the glow of new beginnings, the frontier winter outside suddenly felt a little less cold, a little less lonely, and the Reeves cabin, once quiet and empty, now felt full again, a place where healing could start, where future Christmases might be brighter, and where one little girl's innocent kindness changed all of their lives forever. And as the warm light of Christmas morning spilled across the desert plains, the story of that night of courage, compassion, and the small child who believed that love could be shared like a gift would echo across the frontier for years to come, reminding all who heard it that no matter how harsh the world becomes, there is always room for hope, always room for healing, and always room for unexpected family. And if you want more heart-touching Western stories like this, you can support us by subscribing. Your one click keeps these frontier legends alive.